a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone and welcome to another podcast. And we've got one today on the famous London Marathon. We've got another runner giving us their thoughts on what was, of course, an incredible day for everybody. So welcome, Julie. Julie's going to tell us all about her experiences of running for St. Raphael's Hospice in South London. So welcome. Give us a little bit of your running story and why you chose to run for the hospice.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Tim. And it's really nice to be able to reflect back on what was an unbelievable day, really. And my running history, I'm 43. I started running when I was 18. I found it excruciating. I couldn't do it. And I dragged myself out when I was at uni and I started running back and forwards over a bridge a couple of times, lungs on fire, hated it, hated every second. But with time, I was able to start running a little bit further, could start running 1 kilometre, 2 kilometres, and it wasn't agony. And I kind of nailed that then. And I started doing 5K, 10K. And I think there was almost a fear of ever losing it. So ever since I was 18 and I kind of could run a pretty decent speed and distance as well, I've kept it going. And it's something throughout my life that's actually been quite emotional for me. I have run all around the world. I've so I've got some beautiful memories of running with my husband at the time in New York and running in Argentina. I've loved running. I love running with people. I love running in different places. But I never did a marathon. And I always told myself I couldn't do a marathon. And then one of my best friends last year, we went to see someone else do the marathon. And she said to me, "Jules, this will be you this time next year." And I laughed and I said, I can't do it. And I put an application into St. Raphael's. It's a hospice that means a huge amount to me and my family in the local community. They've done some amazing work and they offer a space for people and their families at end of life, which is something none of us ever want to have to deal with. But when you've got somewhere like that offering that support, it really means the world. And I think for me and my family, they all got on board with me doing the marathon for them. We're really keen to support and put some money into it as well. So I was just incredibly grateful to be able to do it for a charity that meant a lot for me.
Yeah, the cause is so important, isn't it? We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about your fundraising. So tell us all about your training. When did you get started and did you have any little hiccups along the way?
I did. So I'm a calamitous runner. I think in my family, I kind of adopted the nickname Bambi a little bit because I can't stay on my feet, and I have fallen so many times running. I've whiplashed myself just tripping over my own feet and falling on the floor. Honestly, it's a joke. So I put the application in, found out I think it was around September time that I'd got a place, and I was really excited. And I tripped over on a park run in Denbies, which, if anyone knows it, it's really hilly, lots of vineyards, very stony on the path. Just landed awkwardly, tripped and fell over, bounced back up, carried on running. Afterwards, took a sock off and realised that I had kind of a bit of a hoof, really, like a massive trotter on my foot. Like I couldn't even see my ankle. It went blue, yellow, and I cried because I thought, oh my gosh, that's just my marathon training over. So I didn't train actually for 3 months after that, and I had to really give it a break until Christmas. But I was pretty confident because I've run for such a long time that if I gave it a good enough period of time, which was agony for me because I don't do rest very well, I thought I'll be able to get up and going again. So I started in January. I think it was just at the start of the new year. So I had around about 4.5 months, 5 months nearly, which I thought was a good amount of time. My fitness was already at a fairly okay standard. It was a blooming cold winter though. I mean, this year it was dark and cold and wet, and there were some days going out. It took everything to get those trainers on and go out. So that wasn't easy. And then I went to Malaysia in February, right in the middle of the start of my running, and it was all going fine. I did a lot of treadmill runs, which were pretty soul destroying. And then on the way back, I a war broke out when I was in the air about 2 hours out of Qatar. So I got diverted to Oman for 5 days. But I was on the treadmill there every day, just trying to distract myself from what was going on, which was quite nice. And I think it did kind of a couple of things. The treadmill really helped get my pace quite well, I think, because you've got it right there in front of you. And then the second thing, it was really hot in both of those places, real high humidity. There was a lot of air conditioning, but I think that really helped some of my training. So when I came back, I actually lowered my target goal from 4.5 hours to 4. So that worked really well. And then since I got back, I had a couple of months. And that's when all the really, really hard work started. But it went okay. No more falls, I should say.
Good. Well, you certainly sounds eventful, that's for sure. Crikey. Most of us were literally just ploughing through the rain, but at least you had a little bit of something different. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Right. So what was the taper like? Because that's obviously a really weird time for everybody. And how did you deal with that?
It was a weird time, and I think I was doing so well with all my training, and I was really on time with it all. And I think I've pushed myself quite a lot with it. So one of my reflections really, and I kept saying this to myself on the day, because I did let myself go a little bit slower on the day, was enjoy it. Get to the finish line. It was a really hot day. Don't fall over. Keep going. Trained so hard for this. And I kept saying to myself, make sure you enjoy it. So I think by the time I got to the taper, I was finding it quite tricky. I was exhausted because you are, and I have read up on this, and this, well, you'll tell me. I think you're the expert here, but you are training constantly under a lot of stress at the end. I was doing 3 runs a week with a long run and trying to get time to do all of the strength work as well. And your body hasn't had much time to really rest and repair. So that feeling of exhaustion, from what I understand, is meant to be there. So the taper was almost a blessed relief. The taper wasn't quite what I thought it would be at the start, because I think my first run was still 21 kilometers. So it was still a half marathon, the first one. And there was me thinking, excellent, we're back down to little baby 5K runs. No, it was still quite a distance. But after that, obviously it did start to come back down. And it was nice, but the week out, you start to feel a bit tetchy, because you're not really, every run you're doing is, you're thinking, I've got more in the tank. I want to go faster. But then the other part of you is like, just don't trip, don't do anything to hurt yourself, damage yourself. Make sure you get to the day feeling as refreshed as you can and ready for the day. So those 2 weeks before really were, 2-3 weeks before really were quite unusual. But by the time I got to the day, I did actually feel quite as refreshed as I could do and looking forward to it.
Good, good. Because some people do get very edgy during that period, and it is a really strange one. But it is all about rest and repair, as you said, and that can be quite difficult for people to adapt to. So talk us through race week then, or the few days leading up to the race. When did you go to the expo, and what did you think of that whole experience?
So this is something that was quite sad, because there was a tube strike on the week of that. I couldn't get to the expo, and my best friend, her partner, works in the Excel. And because I'm juggling childcare and work, and I don't live in London, I live in Surrey now, so not a million miles away. I actually asked him if he'd be able to go and try and pick it up for me. So he did that, but he was so sweet. He sent me all these videos, and he walked around and he was showing me what was going on. And he said, look, I don't want to say you've missed out, because obviously you've done what you needed to do, but he took so many videos for me of everything going on and explaining what the vibe was like. So very bittersweet. I was definitely feeling like I was missing out on something. And I saw all the photos coming in from the WhatsApp group, and some people had some great ones there. So it was just a shame, but I kept focusing on the Sunday and getting to that point. It was really nice during that week. The WhatsApp group that we had was very active, and everyone was starting to send photos. They were starting to ask questions of each other: who's done this or that, or how are they finding this, or whose socks have done this, or what do I do about this or that? And it was really lovely to have that support amongst us. And I think we were all getting slightly nervous and excited at the same time. So it was a definite build up of nerves as the week went on.
It's a great period, that last sort of 48 hours before race day. It absolutely comes alive, doesn't it? Talk me through race morning then, how you felt at the start and what the
Yeah.
nerves were like.
Oh, I was in between feeling almost sick with anxiety and nerves and so excited. I think we were saying on the WhatsApp group, it was like the closest experience for an adult to Christmas Day. And I commented, yeah, if you were terrified of Santa at the same time, it was this idea of, oh my God, what's going to happen? And this is everything we've been building up to. And also, oh my God, what's going to happen on the day? So I was really juggling those two emotions. I didn't think I'd sleep a wink, and I did. Trains were a nightmare from Surrey first thing in the morning. So I actually set off at 6 o'clock. So I was up at 5:30. My dad lives next door to me and said, I'll come in with you, which at first I said, oh, don't be silly because the crowd's going to be a nightmare. And I'm so glad he did. And it took us, I think, 2.5 hours to get on a train journey that really, I'm 45 minutes to London from here. So for me to take that long to get in to London and across to Greenwich is it's something. But the first stop in Epsom, when I got on the train there, all these people walking along the road. I mean, the streets were deserted because it's, 6 in the morning. But yeah, they had their bags. So of course, we're jibber jabbering to people. Oh, are you off? Who's running? Who are you going in with? So the train journey was really lovely. And then we got to Greenwich and had a coffee, and it was lovely. It was a beautiful day. We were so lucky with the weather. It was hot, but I think it was manageable. Any hotter, I would have really struggled with that heat. We've trained all winter in the bitter coldness, and then that one day is blazing sunshine and heat. So it's a real contrast. But getting to Greenwich Park was just wonderful. The vibe was wonderful. I thought there'd be lots of hanging around, and there wasn't really. They had it all really well set out. The lorries were there. You could drop your stuff off. I've probably dropped my stuff off slightly too early. I wish I'd kept it on me right until half an hour before. You could hear and see things on the big screens. They were counting things down, talking to people all around. So it was a really lovely atmosphere. It calmed the nerves a little bit.
Talk me through that first half of the race then, or, getting up to Tower Bridge, because you go past some amazing landmarks, don't you, Cutty Sark, etc. What was it like? Did you get a chance to take it all in, or was it all a bit of a blur?
The first half for me was brilliant, and I absolutely loved it. It was very residential. So you come down to Woolwich, which I know quite well. It was really lovely kind of running up that road, seeing the view across the Thames as well. And then there's lots of quite residential streets, and people are coming out sitting on their doorsteps. And it almost had a feel of I've been to Notting Hill Carnival, and it was almost a little bit like that, like people with their car stereo systems on, drinking at 10 in the morning, dancing and waving. And it was really lovely. So lots of residential areas running through and weaving round. And then, of course, you get to Greenwich, and suddenly there's just so many people. I mean, that first hour, I'd say there wasn't really that many people. It was very manageable, the queues. And I even managed to see my dad on the route, stopped and had a hug with him. I think I was loving life at that point. Got round to Greenwich, and suddenly there's just so many people, and you go around and you see the Cutty Sark, and it's almost the crowds and the noise is quite overwhelming, but absolutely brilliant. And then you carry on running and running and running, and you get into London Bridge, and then it starts to feel like, oh wow, you turn the corner and you get to Tower Bridge. And for me, that first half marathon was, I think it's the fastest I've ever done a half marathon. I was about an hour 50, an hour 53. It was brilliant, great timing, loved it. One thing on reflection, I hadn't really clocked that there would be photographers on the route. And of course, it's so obvious, right? That think through your ending, like who you're running next to as you go over the line. You don't want some massive, stupid stuffed toy right next to you when you get your pictures taken. But I hadn't thought there's going to be key moments on the route, and I hadn't positioned myself that well. And it just so happens as I ran over Tower Bridge, they're right in the middle of the road on the other side, and you can spot them. But my advice is definitely, make sure you slow down a little bit, have a smile, strike a pose, try not to be tucked behind somebody, because the photos are excellent afterwards. I don't know if it's psychologically that people had told me Canary Wharf is hard, that I got to that bit and I thought, this is the hard bit now. And of course, you turn the corner and you see everyone else running back, doubled up on you. And I think it just did something to me.
I think that's really common. I think the euphoria of going over Tower Bridge, then you got the turn right, and
Yeah,
you're going away from the finish at that point, and then you start seeing runners at sort of mile 21 coming back to you. I think
yeah,
the combination of all of those things, and all of a sudden you do take a bit of a hit, don't you?
you do. You do. And it gets a bit more busy London, that bit, like quite main road vibe, as opposed to your lovely back street weaving all around, before Greenwich and after it. And there's no more little doorsteps coming down onto it with stoops and people with car radios. It suddenly gets quite busy and it's quite main roads. And then it cuts and turns and twists. And I lost track of where I was at that point when I started to get round Canary Wharf. I think I also went too fast in the first half and I shouldn't have done. I think I was just so excited, and everyone always tells you, right, pace yourself. And I think for the heat on the day and also the level of liquid I was taking on, because I drank probably double what I would normally in a training run. I had more Lucozade and a couple more. I was really conscious of not taking too many more gels on, because I think you'd really stressed, try and stick to what you've been doing, don't overdo it. And I really had that in my mind. But I also had in my mind, I'm sweating a lot more than I've done. And I needed to take on more water as well as I was going. So I think it was just an interesting combination of a lot of factors.
There's so much going on at that point. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you're into the long stretch back to the finish, aren't you? And that can
Yeah.
feel a little bit sort of never ending. What was it like when you came out the tunnel and then headed for home?
Yeah, it was. So by that point, I think I'd stopped taking everything in really. I think I was head down and I had started to do a bit of a run walk to keep myself going. But in my head, I was trying to think, I hadn't done walking on any of my training runs. So I was trying to figure out, like, how on earth am I going to keep going if I'm already walking at points? And I had this crazy counting system in my head, just run for 100 and then I can pause and take it and stop for a bit. And it got me through. Um, I think I was so head down that I wasn't taking a lot of it in by that point. And it's only afterwards, as I've looked back at photos and I've read things about it, that it comes back and it's felt quite emotional.
Talk me through when you went round the corner past the palace and you saw the finish. What was that like?
Oh, this to me, it's such an emotional one, because I have been a Londoner all my life and I lived in London for about 20 years in Streatham. I've worked on Whitehall at numerous buildings that I ran past. So I worked at MOD. So MOD fronts onto the river. There's like a lovely green at the front, and we not too far from where the hospice had set themselves up. It's just another 50 meters or so along from that. My daughter went to their nursery. She was born at the St Thomas's right over the river. I know that hospital really well. And now I work in the House of Commons, so I'm in Parliament several days a week. I have done lots of runs around St James's Park, Hyde Park, Serpentine. I used to do that on repeat. So for me, doing this run in London was a really, really personal one, and it's quite emotional for me. My husband actually passed away 8 years ago, and we used to run London together all the time, the two of us. So that I had some of those memories in my mind as well, a little bit. So coming to that corner at Parliament and seeing all these memories right around me and seeing all the crowd. My family were there just before the corner where you turn by Parliament. My brother found me a couple of 100 meters further back because he'd been tracking me and he thought I'd really started to slow. And he ran through the crowds with me and he kept shouting, like, come on, keep going. He's like, Mum and Dad are down here. And I saw all of them, stopped and came back for a hug. And that was the bit where it's like, I've done it, right? I've got this far. I know I can do it. It's still a little bit to go, but I've done it. And coming around that corner, going onto Birdcage Walk and seeing everyone else going at their own pace as well. Because, I was beating myself up, like, keep going. And everyone was the same. Some people were walking, running, going a bit slower, getting around that corner. And it was just amazing getting into there and seeing all those people moving across towards the finishing line. That was really special.
God, that must have been an incredibly emotional time for you. You must have shed a few tears then.
I did afterwards. Do you know what? I think I was just so head down, try and get, do a good time. And I think it was afterwards, it took me a couple of days actually, the enormity of it all. And a few friends that have done the marathon before have said to me, there's a strange feeling afterwards that you get where it's, you feel a bit, I don't know, like a loss of something. And I definitely felt that in the week or two afterwards because it's like I've not got a goal. After I
Mm.
finished, I was like, well, what am I doing at a weekend now? And it's been and gone, like it's finished, it's over. There's almost a sense of slight grieving for it in a really weird way. I don't know if that makes any
Oh, it,
sense,
it
but
absolutely does. I mean, it's incredibly common, and that's why we always sort of talk about having another goal set before race day, because it
yeah,
then means you can finish and then you've got your next sort of target to look forward to, as it were. But it's a massive part of your life for 4 to 6 months for most people, and all of a sudden it's gone. It's very strange.
it
Let's
is.
let's talk let's talk a little bit about the fundraising side of things. And you've talked about why you ran for the hospice. How did you go about your fundraising, and when did you start? Because obviously earlier is often much better, isn't it?
Yeah. So this was a huge thing for me. I've never done fundraising before. I don't like asking for money. I find the whole concept of it quite a struggle. And so it was actually something I tried to lean into and to try and have a bit of a laugh with. So before Christmas, I did a car wash with my partner. He's a mechanic. And he said, if we go down, we'll advertise it. It rained the whole day. I think we got so top tip, don't do a car wash in the rain. No one wants to do that. But I was like, right, you learn. And we still had 4 or 5 people come down because they found out about it. And I still had people that said, I'm not going to come, but here's some money. So what I learned from that was sometimes people just want to feel part of something. They want that, I don't know, a little bit of a connection or um and even just talking about something can have that ripple effect of starting to get out what you're doing and why you're doing it. It gives you something to talk about rather than just asking people for money, which was a big thing for me. So I did that, and then at Christmas, probably the most successful thing I did. I live on a street. My parents are next door, and there's quite a lot of elderly neighbours nearby. And Mum and Dad said to me, "Why don't you do a raffle for Christmas, and you can invite all the neighbours around because didn't really know them that well." And one of my neighbours donated tons of presents for it, and she ended up also putting money in just to buy them back as well. So I ended up getting quite a bit of money on that, and we had such a great day. It was lovely. I invited them all in for Christmas drinks. They came in, they all bought raffle tickets, and it was a really nice way to get to know people. So I enjoyed that. And then more recently, as I got nearer the time, asking people, friends, other people, family, told people that I was running, and they said, "Give me your link, and I'll donate." And then I did a bake sale at work as well, and took in the medal and showed them. It was a couple of days afterwards, actually. So I hobbled into the office, took some cakes in. I actually went up to get it engraved as well on Oxford Street at Lululemon that evening. And so it was nice. I did a few things. I really tried to make the most of it and have a bit of fun with it.
And I think it's great to mix up your fundraising, isn't it? Not rely on one particular thing. Great to do events because it's good for people that are supporting you to have a bit of fun with it as well. How much did you end up raising?
So I got just shy of 3,000. So I was aiming for 2, got 3, which for me was huge. And I did end up getting quite a bit in the couple of weeks in the run up to it. And I think I was just over 2,000 on the day. And I think I've got nearly another 1,000 since then. So it does definitely ramp up at the time and even straight afterwards.
Well, that's fantastic. To raise that much afterwards as well is incredible. That's really
Yeah.
impressive. So
Yeah.
what's next for you then? You talk about a bit of a running void at the moment. What have you got that's going to fill it?
Well, I've booked onto the Box Hill Half in October with a friend of mine. Actually, what it has brought back, I've got a couple of runs that I'm doing with work colleagues in the next few weeks. Now that my feet are nearly recovered, so I've got a couple of runs with them, which is really lovely in London, all around near Parliament. So that will be really nice. And one of the ladies, she's an ultra marathon runner, and she almost kind of coached me a little bit through it. She'd done the London Marathon before. She kind of gave me tips. So I'm going out with her. I'm going out with another friend of mine who works at a nearby consultancy, and we've done some running together. So I think now I did all my training on my own, and I did that deliberately because I think it was quite personal to me to, I don't know, I wanted to figure out my time, but also I think it was just really personal for me that I did it on my own. I can't really quite explain it. It was a really big thing for me. So now what I'm turning to is, I think, trying to do more runs with people and embrace being part of that kind of community.
Now, if you were to run London again next year, hypothetically, on a charity entry, say you didn't get in through the ballot and you decided you desperately wanted to do it again and you wanted to run for St. Raphael's Hospice again, do you think you could raise that money again, or do you think that would be too much of a fundraising challenge?
I think I could do it again, and I think there's things I'd do differently. I was quite, I think, quite shy about asking for money, and I didn't kind of bug people. I don't think I bugged people. I think there were definitely other people in our group who I think really lent into it and gave a bit more of the story and got double and more. I didn't have any matched funding from work or anything like that. So for me, £3,000 was like a huge amount just from family and friends that I met. 10, 20 quid here and there. That was quite a lot that I felt I got in, and I feel really proud with that. But I think if I was doing it again next time, I'd have more confidence. A big part of this was a learning for me about raising money and being confident to ask for it and explain why I was doing it and explain the cause. There's a part of you that feels a bit awkward about, I'm running, and can you sponsor me? Can you give me some of your money? And actually, I became more confident with the story by the end. I'm running for this reason. This is what the hospice means to me. This is the great work that they do in the community. You're not paying for me, you're sponsoring me to run for them, and I'm doing something really tough, right? This isn't just me going and baking a couple of cakes. I'm doing a marathon, and this is hard, and I'm doing it for an amazing charity, and your money is going to them. So I think I would feel more confident to be a bit more on the front foot with asking more.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to seeing you on the start line next year then. Sounds like you got it all planned out. Jules, really appreciate you coming on. You did a fantastic job with your time, 4:13.
4:18. Yeah,
4:18.
4:18, pretty
4:18,
much.
amazing
Yeah.
time, and to raise 3 grand for the hospice is absolutely fantastic. So you should feel very proud of yourself. Have a little bit of time off and then get those shoes back on and let's get on to the next one.
I think so. You can't stick around. I'm already getting itchy feet. I'm like, I want to get back out. I want to do it.
That's the start of the next era.
Yeah,
Great
exactly.
stuff. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.